No forum, no volume. Thank you so much, Lance, for pointing that out. Um, now let's get this thing started on the right foot. So to quickly recap, um, we are at DraftKings Sportsbook Resort DraftKings Sportsbook at Foxwoods Resort Casino for a special edition of tonight's Wager Wednesday. Today, of course, is July 9th, which is the same date 4 years ago when I first signed up to the Sports Coast to Coast Forum. So very exciting times all around. If you missed the first 2 minutes, you didn't really miss much. Didn't see anything too deviant from what I typically do in the first couple minutes of the segment. My name is Alex Huberth. Very glad that you are here. Let's get the ball rolling here, shall we? Again, Lance, super appreciative of you speaking up and letting me know no mic. Of course, it's the one thing that I forget about. But in any event, we are set to talk about Week 17. One sec there. A little more difficult, as you could probably tell, having just one screen to work with rather than multiple, but we'll make do with what we have. So, we had, over the holiday weekend, 3 games in the Indoor Football League. We had some teams continue to build on their playoff cases, other teams building on positioning to try to get to home turf advantage for at least the first round of the playoffs, maybe more. And some very interesting results there. We'll go over each and every game in just a little bit. We'll take that sample, figure out how it fits into the population in terms of yearly trends. We will look at league-wide favorites, underdogs, money lines, over-unders, same as we always have each week. Figure out where things are trending to and what existing trends are out there to try to take advantage of as we make our picks in these final few weeks of the season. So once we recap the week that was, dive into some trends, we'll get into Week 17. It is a full 7-game slate. I've got a special guest hopping on later on in the show to help with some previews, giving some insights on players to look out for, so stick around for those. We'll make our single game bets, and then we'll go into our parlays to wrap up the evening. So Week 16, we had 3 games scattered across a 5-day span. We began things on Thursday night with the Iowa Barnstormers taking on the Massachusetts Pirates out in Lowell. This game, Massachusetts had to stand on business, and they did precisely that. Pretty much a perfect game on offense and defense throughout the first half, where the Pirates had built up a 40-6 halftime lead. Needless to say, they did not lose that lead. Iowa kind of rounded the corner a little bit in the second half, but a lot of that could be attributed to a little bit of a fluky game script in that final 30-minute stretch. But give credit to Iowa. They played the full 60, but again, in the end, as has been the case too often for the fans out in Des Moines, it turns up as a loss for Iowa. They're 12th in 13 games. The Pirates get to 7-6 with a 54-31 victory over their Eastern Conference rivals out in Iowa. That began our week with a loss on the bet slips because we had the over in that game, and it only gave us a total of 85 points. Saturday's game, Western Conference tilt, Tucson at San Antonio. Very much similar scenario. Tucson in that 5th spot in the West, trying to climb up the board with some wins here late, maybe sneak in a playoff berth. Again, this was a game where Tucson had to have it, and they did not fool around. This was a complete effort through and through. The offense, perfect through the first half. Defense chips in a pick 6. Tucson riding a hot second quarter in particular to build a 42-21 halftime lead. The second half was all about the Sugar Skull defense, completely slamming the door shut, even though they did allow a touchdown in the final minute of the game, but that was at a point when the outcome of the game was well in hand. Tucson delivering a 58-28 road victory over the San Antonio Gunslingers to get them to 6-7 on the season. They're a couple games behind Vegas and Arizona still for playoff spots, but not mathematically eliminated yet. And we've seen crazier things happen in this league. So that was Saturday's game. Monday night, we had Bay Area and San Diego, the Battle of California. Bay Area looking to complete the 3-game regular season sweep over the San Diego Strike Force, and the hosts were having none of that. Just like Massachusetts and Tucson in the games before them, San Diego got exactly the start that they were looking for. Efficient on offense, 2 takeaways on defense in the first half, and it was the Strike Force that got out to a 24-7 halftime lead. They got up to a 20-point lead midway through the third quarter, a tale that's all too much told in the folks out in Oceanside, San Diego area. Bay Area made this close. They got an 18-point unanswered run a little bit into the fourth quarter. It was a 2-point game. But San Diego recalibrated nicely. They kept themselves ahead throughout the fourth quarter with some timely touchdown drives. They got a defensive stand in the end zone to close out the game as well. A big 4th down and 8 pass deflection. And the San Diego Strike Force, as plus 164 underdogs, deliver a 46-38 victory over the Bay Area Panthers. San Diego 9-4, Bay Area 10-3. That race for the number 1 spot in the Western Conference just got very, very interesting. For us, we took Bay Area on the spread, and that convincingly was not the right selection here. But that's how it goes sometimes. Even the best teams have their off days, especially against teams that are very close to them in the standings that have proven their worth. San Diego, no doubt, a bona fide contender. Very much a threat the way they're going right now. Longest win streak in the IFL at 6 games. Things rolling along right now for San Diego, hoping that they can keep that stretch through as deep into the summer as they possibly can. So that wrapped up a 1-2 week for us. We are still a 49-42 record. So if our predictions were an MLB team, we'd be the San Diego Padres. Not too shabby. But our most convincing bet type that has won has been the over. Everything else has been kind of around middle ground, with the exception of our money line bets, which have struggled for the most part all season long. Though our money line favorite bets, since we had started 0-7, a very respectable 9-5. So all in all, pretty solid result. But of course, we're looking to build on that and finish this regular season out strong. Our 3-leg parlay for the week. Oh, what a heartbreaker. What a heartbreaker. I honestly am still reeling about this one. All we have to do is get the best team in the IFL to win, and we were home free. But San Diego obviously had other ideas. So our bets of Massachusetts covering held its own. Same deal with Tucson defeating San Antonio outright. That was a 30-point victory, but that dreaded last leg, man, it can get you. And such was the case for us this week. So 10 straight weeks without a winning parlay. I say regression to the mean hits hard these next 3 weeks where we can get at least 1, maybe 2 winners. We'll have to see. But our per leg record, pretty dang good. 29 wins by my count, 19 losses. So spectacular there. Our year-to-date results by dollar amounts. Last week put us a unit below. Unsurprising considering that we went 1-2 for the week. So in terms of meeting our preseason goal of 6 units of net gain at the end of the season, obviously still possible from here, but I'd be happy to just get above 500 again. That's the reality of the situation and how difficult it is to bet this league and to bet sports in general. So if we can do that, we can qualify this season as another success in terms of correctly predicting these games. And this same graph, except by ROI percentage. As we get further along in the year, the impact is going to be, for the lack of a better term, less and less, because it's, a set amount of games adding to a population that's ever growing. So again, the flat and the weighted method are below. I'd love nothing more than to see both of them go back over into positive territory when all is said and done. Our yearly results by bet tell us pretty much the same story that the past few weeks have. Spread betting is pretty even between favorites and underdogs. Overs and unders, same deal. Moneyline favorites are converting at a rate pretty similar to what they had converted at through the 2023 and 2024 seasons. Maybe a percentage point or less above that with the 91 game sample so far. But the convincing trend this season, at least so far, home teams. They are covering at a 58% rate, outright winning at a 59% rate, which is a super lopsided thing to potentially take advantage of in our final few weeks of the season here. The over still remains a very hot proposition over these last 5 weeks, even though last week had 2 of our 3 games go under. Still 19 and 11 in the past 5 weeks for a pretty solid conversion rate there. So if you like point scoring and you're rooting for point scoring, this past month plus has been an absolute delight for you. Here are our team-by-team trends. And I will say this much, 13 games is a little bit of a soft spot when talking about statistical significance, because all you need is 8 results in favor of one outcome over another to technically qualify as that 60+% statistically significant threshold that I like to use. So that's why you see a whole lot of green and red there with each team's record by bet type. But there are still some very convincing trends here as well. Quad City has been a great spread team all season long, as has Bay Area and Tucson cracking that list too, surprisingly. Over-unders, same deal. Iowa, best team to the over. On the flip side, Northern Arizona and Massachusetts have been your teams to rely on when looking at the under. So take these results for how you will. I'm sure you'll be able to get something that resonates with you the deeper that we look into this. Here are our bet results by team. This is the diverging point, or the defining point, however you want to look at it, of being able to meet our preseason goal of getting 7 betting wins across all 14 IFL teams this week. Because 3 teams, Massachusetts, Tulsa, and San Diego, we actually have to win out from this point onwards just to meet that mark. So, yeah, like I said, this is going to be a pivotal week. On the actual meeting the goal front, we could get there with correct picks on our games with Arizona, Vegas, and Fishers. So if we're able to get those few games right, we'll be able to add a few more feathers to our cap potentially there. All right, now to go over our disclaimers as we do on a weekly basis. The lines and odds that we're going to use are going to come from DraftKings Sportsbook unless otherwise specified. I will say, as of right now, I will take a quick peek again, but DraftKings lines are not yet out. So we will be relying on Bet365 for tonight's lines. This series is purely for curiosity, for entertainment, and to basically enhance everybody's engagement level in the IFL. Nothing more. If we happen to make a few bucks with our correct selections, it's a nice added bonus. But it's important to note there's no such thing as a guarantee or a sport lock in the sports wagering world. If you would like to tail or fade my selections and try your luck, you're more than welcome to do so. But please gamble responsibly. Practice safe gaming habits. That includes setting a budget in terms of both time and money. Risk only what you can afford to lose. And if you feel that you or a loved one is having issues with problem gaming, there are a lot of resources, either online or state provided, that provide help in that area. Responsibleplay.org is one. Haveagameplan.org is another. So if you're one that needs to know that help is out there for you. And I pray that in time, whatever issues that you may be having there will subside. All right, it is now time to go ahead to our 7-game big board and make our selections. But before I do, I want to introduce tonight's special guest. This is Bannock, a fellow member of the Sports Coast to Coast community. His most of his role as a consultant. Bannock, welcome aboard. How's your day been today?
Thank you. Been a great day. Day off from work, so those are always good.
I know it's same here. We're both living the life. All right, man. Are you ready to tackle this big board and talk about 7 indoor football games?
Yeah, big week. Let's go.
To bring up the tab here. And there we go. Let's see if I can put us to the side so you can see everything. Very good. Okay, first game, Friday night, 10:05 Eastern kickoff. That's 7:05 Pacific. This is the Vegas Nighthawks against the Bay Area Panthers. The Panthers coming home from that tough loss Monday at San Diego. The spread is the same as it was in that game. Panthers favored by 5.5. The over-under is 81.5. Over here on Bet365 on the money line, Vegas is plus 205. Bay Area minus 250. Now, Bannock, the big storyline here is Bay Area trying to play this game on a super truncated schedule. But is there anything else, maybe a player or something that you might have seen through the eye test that might be worthwhile to look at here as well?
Yeah, like you mentioned, 4 days, or 3 full days between games. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. But Rob Keefe, he'll have the guys ready, and I think Bay Area could really still have that loss to San Diego fresh in their minds, and they'll be ready to play. They'll definitely be ready to go. Um, the thing that catches me, and this will come when I, mention my pick, is it's kind of a uh, tale of two ends of the spectrum here. With Bay Area on such a short span of games and days, Vegas is coming off a bye, so they've got some. Anybody who's dinged up a little bit and stuff had an extra week to do a little bit recovery. So, um, that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's the exaggerated example of rest versus rust, right? Where you have the
Yeah,
Panthers
exactly.
basically on a short week. Vegas just got a full bye, got to enjoy the nice holiday weekend with family, friends, and loved ones. Um, but yeah, I think as good as the Panthers are, as professional as Rob Keefe and the rest of that Panther crew is, there comes a point where I have to consider the human limit. This is going to be a very tough game in terms of conditioning for the Panthers to come out and deliver a result. That said, as tempting as it is for me to take Vegas money line here, my choice was this plus 5.5 for the Nighthawks. Just in case the game is super close, like maybe we get a situation where it's tied, Perez kicks a game-winning field goal for Bay Area, we would be immune to that with this selection. So I'd be playing it a little bit safe with here, though I do say there's a lot of value here on the money line, just simply by virtue of circumstance. Um, is that a pick that you would be looking at too, Bannock, or is there another one that you like that you want to talk about?
That is exactly the pick I made.
Yep.
Yeah, Vegas the plus 5.5. You know, they only have to lose by 5 in order to cover that.
Yep.
And I think this will be a close game. I'm scared of the over under. I think it's going to be under. These are two really good defenses, but yeah, I would stick with the plus 5.5 for Vegas.
And I am glad that you did bring up this over under selection a lot, because Vegas has a very interesting question to answer at the quarterback position. Because the last time that these two teams played, their initial answer was Jaden DeLora. And as impressive as the rookie has been throughout the entire season, that first half was a shutout that game. The Panthers led 15-0 midway through. Then Jerome Johnson comes in and puts 31 points on the board in that second half. So is DeLora the solution again here for Mike Davis? Or do we finally see the start of that awakening sleeping giant with Jerome Johnson? That's going to be super interesting to see how Vegas plays that.
I'm going to add a caveat. Vegas has a much better chance at winning if they go with one quarterback, and I think that's got to be Johnson, given his history with in the previous game. I think it's 4 weeks ago. I do not like the rotating quarterback scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it is the reigning IFL MVP we're talking about, for crying out loud. It's just been that sort of a strange season in Vegas where DeLora has just played so well. It's afforded the Nighthawks that luxury of being able to say, all right, when Jerome Johnson finally gets 100% healthy, which, let's be honest, has been an issue throughout this season, this kid can hold the fort. Like we saw the game that he had against Arizona, for example, when the two teams met in Henderson. He was pretty much perfect. Sliced up that Rattler defense.
And here's a fun fact about DeLora. He's played maybe, 45% of the snaps. He's not thrown an interception.
I thought he threw one a couple weeks ago, but that might be the only one, and that one was not his fault. I think it was the Tucson game, actually, where I think it was initially the pass was completed, and then it got ripped out by, I think it was Ryan Murray or someone.
It's hard to tell with the IFL stats being season stats being the way they are. From what I see, and you could be very well right. It could be one, but one, whether it's 0 or 1, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, however you slice it, it's efficient, and you're taking care of the ball, and that's half the battle in any level of pro football. Yeah. So, yeah, we ready to move on to this next game here, Bannock?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's go now to the 7 o'clock Eastern Saturday game, which is San Antonio at Jacksonville. This is a renewal of a rivalry that started in the National Arena League. The Sharks are at home, favored by 13.5. The over-under is 78.5. The money side, super lopsided here. If you like San Antonio, it's an appetizing plus 550 on the money line. And if you're on the Sharks outright, a more muted payout of minus 800. Your initial thoughts here, my friend?
I don't want to reveal my pick here yet, but Jacksonville could score in the 50s easily here and really get at least 2/3 of the way to that over under. Actually, I may have just given away my pick, but the minus 13.5 was just a little too much for me. And I know Jacksonville can do it against San Antonio, but I think San Antonio is ready for a solid game where they break out, they score some points. It's not going to be, I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be enough to win. But yeah, the minus 13 is just a little much for me. I tend to go a little conservative on these things, though.
No, for sure. I definitely hear this argument too, right? Jacksonville's offense, we've seen them at their best. That run-heavy attack led by Tyler Huff, Larry McCammon. When they get things going, 50 points is an outright possibility. And, maybe we can make the argument mid-40s is their floor. So it's not hard to see a scenario where they could get to, 2 or 3 touchdowns from this total all on their own. Your remaining question then would just be a
That's
matter
true.
of, can San Antonio pick up the sloppy seconds to get you there? And I'll be honest,
I think they can.
if I hadn't made my primary pick already, over 78.5 would definitely be one that attracts my eye a lot. I guess for me, I perhaps am not as scared of minus 13.5. Certainly, there is the possibility of some late game nonsense where San Antonio gets a touchdown to where they only lose by like 12 or something. They've done that to me pretty much all season long. Whether I've picked for them or against them, it's just been a crazy roller coaster type of situation. Tucson was that team for me last year. I think the Sharks are just too darn strong, though, at home. They've only lost once. That was the Massachusetts game. That was a clear outlier and an exception to the rule that they've established there. Also of note, they've had 3 wins at VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena by 30 or more points, including an absolute beatdown on Quad City. So they're kind of in the same.
Very
they're in that same
surprising.
position of home dominance that Green Bay was at last year, where they were just like killing teams by at least 20 points on the regular. So I think as long as they take care of business here, both on offense and on defense, where they're only giving up, I think, 31 points per game in this building against a San Antonio offense that has been inconsistent at best. I like Jacksonville's chances here of making this lofty spread. I probably wouldn't play it any more than this or maybe even 14-5, though, just to be sure. But 13-5, I think, is enough for me to take the bait.
I think against San Antonio, Jacksonville could repeat their 58 points from 2 weeks ago against Iowa. I know Iowa's probably got not quite as good a defense as San Antonio, just by a thread. So, the Gunslingers would have to score, 21 points if that were to happen to get the over, and that happens to be my pick, the over.
I like it. All righty. Anything else that we want to go over with this game, or on to the next?
No, I think about all can be said about that as can be said.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Here's a game that I think is going to be very much overlooked that I feel like people should still have their eyes glued to. It is Fishers and Iowa, 2 teams that have been eliminated from the playoff picture already. The Freight come in as 4.5-point road favorites, over under 92.5. If you like Fishers outright, it's minus 230. And if you like Iowa outright, plus 190. What fascinates me about this game, as goofy as it sounds, is kind of like that infamous designation, right? Like, who has had the longest losing streak in the IFL? Right now, that longest losing streak is 9. Fishers already did their time with that streak and have come back with 2 straight wins. Iowa, on the other hand, has a 9-game losing streak ongoing. And take a wild guess at who their lone victory of the season was against.
It's Fishers
This
by
Fishers
31.
Freight team in this exact building. So there's going to be a lot of bragging rights here. Pride very much on the line. And let's be honest, we could have a really nice local rivalry brewing here. Especially with these teams meeting one more time again in week 19 out in Indiana. But for me, with looking at Iowa, the one thing that they've been consistent at this year, as crappy as it is to say, is they've let up way too many points defensively to give their offense any sort of shot at winning football games. I think it's 57.8 that they give up on a per game basis. And the next worst team is at 46. That's the level of disparity that we're going with right now. And it's part of the reason why Iowa games have been so successful in converting the over. We talked about Iowa before as the league's best team to the over at 10-3. I think we're going to get a game here where both teams go at it. These are 2 very good offenses at their best. And you know that Fisher's floor is pretty much 50 in this game, just by virtue of how sloppy the Barnstormer defense has been throughout the season. So my pick's the over here at 92.5. I'm going directly back to this well after it kind of burned me last week, but I'm not getting scared from it now. Is that a bet that you like here, Bannock, or is there another one that you
I didn't catch that one. What exactly did you pick?
Oh, so I had the over here at 92 and a hook.
That's tempting, but I'm just going Fisher straight out on the money
For
line.
Fishers? All right.
It's not a great number. It's a good number. It's not a great number, but I just think Fishers is going to win, but not necessarily by 5.
Yeah, I mean this should be a tight game either way, and that's exactly what it was when we had the last time these two teams met in Week 6. You know, it was a one-score game until the Barnstormers sort of made their charge and things got completely away from the Freight. And it ended up being, I think, 67-31 that night.
Yeah, it was I think 31 point win.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That many points in that short of time. I mean, that's another reason why the Barnstormers have been a really great over team, is that their offense and special teams in tandem can explode at any time.
Yeah.
They might go scoreless for a stretch, but they more than make up for it with another stretch either earlier or later in the game. If nothing else, it still adds excitement to a team that's 1-12 on the season.
I mean, I don't love the money line, but I think it's just a little bit better than the other two options for me.
Yeah, I mean, 4.5 either way. It's I see the argument here. I think when I had my model run this, it had Fishers at minus 3.5, so this isn't too far off. You also have that home turf advantage, if you want to call it that, baked in to that a little bit. So we'll have to see. This has low-key game of the week quality level to it, I think.
You know, I've always felt that when you have, people talk about the game of the week, and maybe this week it's Vegas Bay Area. But I always thought if you have two fairly evenly matched teams, you can get it just as entertaining of a game. Like
Yeah,
even though these guys are the two bottom teams in the East, this could turn out to be a really entertaining game and be the most entertaining of the week if things pan out the way we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, these, memorable games can come out of absolutely nowhere, and it's not hard to see a scenario where Fishers Iowa delivers exactly that. So unless you have anything else to add to that one, I say we talk about Massachusetts and Tulsa.
Yeah, let's go to Massachusetts and Tulsa, and of course, your home team on the road.
The hometown Pirates trying to take another big step towards clinching another playoff berth. They are 1.5-point underdogs with the over-under 79.5. The Pirates are plus 105 money line, and Tulsa's laying a quarter. The big news coming out this week, at least on the social media world, if you're into that, Tulsa has added some weaponry at the quarterback position in Carl Robinson III. If the name sounds unfamiliar to you, Robinson won the NAL MVP as well as the championship game for the Beaumont Renegades back earlier in the summer. That championship game being June 16th, so he's still fairly fresh. But if he is named the starter, he's going to be going into a new system, probably an entirely new playbook, but there could be a case made that you tailor the playbook around a guy that has the dual threat ability that Robinson showed with the Renegades earlier this year. So that's kind of the big signing leading into this, maybe contributing to this being Tulsa as the favorite, even though they only scored 7 points a couple weeks ago against Fishers. But what stands out to you in this game, bud?
Well, and that's a really big note that they signed Robinson. I didn't quite know his full pedigree because kind of not as familiar with the NAL, but I'm still looking at Edwards being out, and Andre Cole's having to fill that spot with a lot of pressure on whoever's in there, whomever's in there. Hassan Rogers or uh, Robinson. I actually had a side note here that and you can maybe elaborate more because I know you were in the arena when Edwards got hurt. I know he has to miss at least one more game. Do you think that he would miss a game after this weekend?
I
From like,
really don't know. I've kind of kept a laissez-faire approach when it came to like the immediate aftermath. Like I know he had surgery and everything. Um,
okay,
the other thing I found
I'm
too
going to
is
say
that IR designations are very loose when looking at the league transaction page. By the letter of the law, short-term IR means that you're missing a minimum of, I believe it's 3 games, but it could
two.
be more than that. Um, Case in point, Jimmy Robinson, when he got hurt earlier in the season against Tucson, the running back for the Jacksonville Sharks, it was one of those non-contact injuries, one where you're like super scared the moment that it happens. The Sharks responded by placing him on short-term IR, but he hasn't seen the field since. So,
Yeah, true.
and then
I'm
the
going to say
inverse is true as well, where you had guys put on season IR that eventually do come back like 2-3 months later.
yeah,
So it
I think
can
if he
get
had
very
surgery,
murky in
that
the
he's not
season.
coming back this probably this season. Um,
Yeah, just
that
the way
doesn't
that
really change.
Tulsa's players reacted, like
Yeah, that
the overbearing, like, oh crap, this is bad vibe that just flooded Tazonga Center that night did not give anything that this was just going to be like a 2-3 game absence.
no, okay. Um, and that's good to know. That doesn't change my pick. Um, I still think, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Pirates have a trend in this direction. I would take the under 79.5. It's a low under, but still, I think even with a new quarterback, or if they still go with Rodgers or a combination of the two, um, I just see the defenses winning out.
Yeah, I mean, the under is a great number, the lowest of the week, but this is to be expected in any game involving the Massachusetts Pirates this year. Um, I joke around with my dad a lot all the time because we watch a bunch of college basketball, especially like mid majors. I always tell him that the Pirates are the Vermont Catamounts of the IFL, just with that like grimy way that they play the game. Like they are more than happy beating you 38-28 if that's what it takes to put a win on the board. Um, but yeah, this one
Hey,
is super, super interesting. I will say about the under as well. We talked about the Pirates as a really good team to the under 9-4. Tulsa 8-5 in that category too. So if you're going based on that, this is a very strong pick. Um, Strong picks are something that I have not made this season in total on Pirates and Oilers games because I'm 4-9 for both teams.
yeah.
So that kind of spurs my decision a little bit here. Tulsa money line. I hope that I'm right, and I also hope that I am dead wrong, if that makes any sort of sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
Because
it totally does.
like all year long, I'll be honest here, I've been hesitant to pick the Pirates to kind of avoid that double whammy situation. But you know what? If getting this pick wrong is what it takes for the Pirates to get to 8-6, likely go into the playoffs at that point, so be it. This is a sword that I am very happy to fall upon if it does come to that. But in the same breath, we talked about home teams and how strong they've been throughout the season. And in a game that's closely projected as this one is, minus a quarter is not that terrible of a bid to take here. And we sometimes forget Tulsa's defense, pretty darn good, especially at Box Center.
You mentioned the home team, and Tulsa has a huge fan base. Um,
All
they
right.
they I can't remember the owner's name, I know he owns the other Oilers, the hockey Oilers, but they put together a really good program there and draw a lot of fans in. So if the crowd can, I guess the ninth man can help push Tulsa over the top, maybe they can come out with this win.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of history too, the past couple times the Pirates have played here have been a little bit of rough sledding. Their win in 23 was only by 6 points. Their matchup here last year, Tulsa won by 20, though that does come with the caveat of that was the last week of the season, and the Pirates had called off all of their big dogs after the first quarter. So, nonetheless, strong results from Tulsa um, as far as kind of overperforming against projections in this particular matchup, this particular venue. So, would it surprise me if the Oilers won? No. Would it surprise me if the Pirates won? No. It's a tough game. It's a coin toss. I'm picking the home team that has landed almost 60% of the time, and that's what
And
this
that's
stuff
why it's
more or
such
less comes
a
down to.
and that's why it's such a narrow margin.
For sure. All right, ready to move to the 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock it is.
9 o'clock it is. I love it. All right, we'll start off with San Diego at Arizona. This is a rematch of the Western Conference Final last August between the Strike Force and the Rattlers, the latter of whom are favored by 3.5. The over-under 85.5. San Diego's plus 150 money line and Arizona minus 180. What do we see here as the potential headline, the attention grabber?
Um, as far as the options, I see that 3.5, more than a field goal. And I also see Arizona at home, probably not losing this one. If this were San Diego, I might not take. I am going to take Arizona to cover. I don't love it, but I have a feeling they'll win this, and then it'll be up to San Diego in the final week of the season to try to get a little revenge.
Yeah, I so often in this series I talk about matchups having a pivotal role in getting a good read on these games. The one that I always came back to was Kevin Guy having an unbelievable track record specifically against Nate Davis. We saw this last year in that playoff game when the Strike Force got absolutely silenced to 23 points in that game to go to the IFL National Championship. Um, Even further back, 2022, pretty much the same deal when Davis was a member of the Duke City Gladiators when Arizona won that game convincingly in the first round. So if there's one guy on this planet that knows how to put the stops on one of the best pure passers in the league, Kevin Guy, no pun intended, is that guy. But I definitely do see this game, even though both offenses have super, super high ceilings, I think we get a great showing from both defenses here. We saw a glimpse of this with Arizona last week, limiting Green Bay to 28 points when the Blizzard averaged over 50 a game. So
True.
very, very significant result there. And at least on paper, and if history is any indication, they've got a spectacular matchup here as well. So my pick here was actually the under at 85.5. This has kind of been more or less where the league average has been this year in terms of points scored per game across the board. So I'm more than willing to take the dart throw at this and see if my inclinations on both defenses coming to life turn out to be true. And look out for San Diego's defense, by the way. We saw how brilliantly they played in that first half against San Diego, or against Bay Area, rather. If they get back to that takeaway machine that they were last year, look out. I'll just put it simply like that. Look out.
They've got the pieces. Yeah, they definitely got have the pieces. I know they had a couple guys out, but I think there's one left to need to be returned from injury. But then yeah, they're strong. And the thing about San Diego I really like is the human corkscrew, Rudy
Oh, yeah,
Johnson.
yeah.
He's a backup quarterback, running back, receiver, kick returner, real estate agent. Um, uh, he kind of set that trend last year with I think we have Hassan Rogers in Tulsa, T.J. Davis in Green Bay. Um, I believe it's Larry Harrington in Tucson. These backup quarterbacks helping their teams in other ways. And, um, I like that direct snap, short goal line situation that San Diego can run with
Yeah,
Rudy.
for sure. And to kind of continue on that Rudy Johnson line of thought, I wouldn't be shocked if he saw an expanded role in the offense this week, particularly at receiver, because we saw Jalen Sample get absolutely lit up on that one play in the Bay
Yeah.
Area game. And Joel Maldonado took a pretty bad beating too, although he was able to return to the game. But would have to suspect that there's some
Yeah,
lingering
right
thing
against the
there.
wall.
So to keep
Maldonado.
everybody fresh and in a good rotation, might Rudy Johnson take snaps at wide receiver. It might not be a full complement, but enough to keep the defense honest a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Taylor Jennifer seems to like to use him more in the second half than the first and ride Edward Vander. But it's like you said, Jalen Sample got just whacked. And I don't know severity of injuries, but I really like the idea that Maldonado will come back and maybe Sample would be, if he comes back, maybe not utilized as much as maybe Rudy Johnson could be.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's a very interesting game to pick. Um, as is the case with a bunch of these, there's strong arguments across the board. But you've got your Arizona minus 3.5, and I have the under at 85.5. 3.5, I will say, is a very interesting territory when it comes to betting underdogs, because how many games have we seen decided by exactly 3-point margins? And of those, how many have come down to that last second field goal? Like if this game came down to Dawson Evans knocking one through to win the game for Arizona, if you like San Diego, you can take him on the spread and still win your wager if you took the plus 3.5. So I think there's some allure and attraction to it. But I'm with you. I probably would bite more on the minus 3.5 this time around, simply because, as impressive as San Diego's win was last week, they've got another dragon to slay right here, and it's another story entirely.
You mentioned Dawson Evans. You know, I see your Dawson Evans and raise you an Ernesto Lacayo.
All right, cool. You ready to go over our last game here? All
Sure.
right, this is another matchup of teams that are a bit lower on the league table right now, but it's Tucson at Northern Arizona. Rematch of a prior meeting in two prior meetings actually, one each in Tucson Convention Center and Prescott Valley. Um, Here the Wranglers are at home. They're giving 7.5, or they're getting 7.5, I should say. The over/under is 81.5. On the money line, Tucson minus 350, Naz plus 275. What is our initial thought process here, my friend?
I think the Wranglers are ready to play a playoff spoiler against an in-state rival. I'm not saying they're going to outright win it, but they're gonna beat that plus 7.5.
Yeah, and this I like this one too. It's a very I kind of it's tough to say, but it's like a sense of security bet almost, for almost the same logic that the
Mhm.
3.5 gives you, because 7.5 gives you a full touchdown of wiggle room. And Tucson's
True.
defense, though it has had its moments throughout the season, across it all, we've seen them get burned a lot against some pretty good offenses. And the Wranglers, as long as they're continuing to start Ramon Atkins and the rest of the supporting group is full strength, they can put numbers on the board. Um, so if they're able to at least keep pace here with Tucson, plus 7.5 is not out of the question. At the end of the day, though, this is a game that Tucson has to have in their bid to try to steal a playoff spot away. So I actually went with this minus 350 for my single game pick. Because you talked about Northern Arizona's offense being really, really good, at least in the past, month and a half, 2 months or so. Tucson's, when looking at the numbers, you could make the case best offense in the IFL. Past 7 games, 5 of them have seen the Skulls score 50 or more. That floored me when I looked at it earlier this week. But yeah, Jorge Reyna, Devontae Sapp Lynch, Trip Harrington, the rest of that offense is just buzzing right now. And if you're not on your A game defensively, and the Wranglers are right around that bottom 3 defense as well, this might get tough if Northern Arizona isn't able to stem the early tide. All right, is there anything else on this game that you wanted to go over, or are we ready to talk parlays?
Well, I'll just preview. I have something else on this game when we talk about the parlays.
Oh, sure. So, do you want to go over yours first, or do you want me to unravel mine?
Actually, go for yours, and then I'll let you know mine.
Sure thing. So, I started this with Quad City minus 140. If there's anything I've learned from IFL betting throughout the past few years, Quad City at home at this number is way too good to pass up. I know Green Bay's offense is scary. They are, I think, still number 1 in the IFL in scoring offense. But especially on the road, this is a tough assignment. For starters, this is a Quad City defense that's top 4 in the IFL in point scoring allowed. And Green Bay, as we've seen, they've had games at Arizona and at Tulsa where, for whatever reason there was, the offense just wasn't humming like it used to. I think Quad City can put together an effort like that one here.
I would just say I agree, and I would also add, if this game were at Green Bay, I'd go the opposite route.
I actually would too, believe it or not, because I've talked about matchups for a majority of this series. Like I said before, the home team in this series at the IFL level has won 11 of 14 times. So, that's what guided my pick when these two teams met in Green Bay back in week 9 or 10 or whatever it was. I looked at that and said, Green Bay's plus 1.5. I'm taking that. I 100% am taking that. And if I didn't know any better, I would have taken Green Bay money line. Obviously, not knowing that Daquan Neal wasn't going to start that game, which certainly made a drastic difference. But you know what? You can only play the hand that you're dealt. Green Bay did it with perfection that day. So that's leg number 1. Leg number 2 actually borrows your single game pick on San Diego, Arizona. And this again boils down to, for starters, Arizona being the home team, where that rowdy fan base can make a tremendous impact, positive impact for their home team in this game. Dalton Sneed is a 2-time IFL champion, back-to-back defending at that.
Yeah.
This is his time to kind of put the first however much of the regular season behind him and really lock in for another start of a postseason run to claim that trifecta. Something that really hasn't been seen in this league since the Sioux Falls days.
Yeah, true.
So that's leg number 2. Leg number 3 comes from Tucson, Northern Arizona. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I'm taking the over here. And to me, this is amazing how much regression to the mean can rear its ugly head, because I think it was after Tucson's game against Massachusetts when they won 47-26. That had marked 14 of the last 16 Sugar Skulls games to go under. Would you believe that 6 of their 7 games since then have gone over, with several of those being convincing winners for anybody playing the high on that number? And like I said before, I talked about Tucson scoring 50 points pretty much at will for the better part of, 2 months. If they get to this number here, all Northern Arizona needs is 31, 32 points. And I think we have a scenario similar to maybe the way that Tucson's game against San Antonio played out, where we got a whole bunch of scoring from Tucson in the first half that kind of served as the backbone to that over bet cashing last week, even though it took a lot of sweat to get there with the way the second half played out.
Well, I think in that game, didn't Tucson kind of switch more to the run game?
They did. I will say San
Try to
Antonio played a little
block.
bit tighter defensively, though that's not a particularly high bar to set given that they let up 42 in the first half. But really, that half was a matter of Tucson's defense taking their turn to make their mark on the game. But yeah, I love this over. I definitely thought this would be in the mid 80s. I'd play this as far as 85. So those 3 legs
Sounds
put
good.
together, I did the calculations. It doesn't let me click here because it makes me do a login situation. But in calculating that out, this minus 140 here and these pair of minus 110s, it comes out to plus 524. So it's a $10 bet, would be worth roughly $62 and change if it does hit. And I'm hoping that this one finally ends my drought. I thought that I was there last week, had Bay Area flame out as my last leg. Oh, man, the heartbreak. But here's the hoping for this one. All right, now I offer the floor back to you, Ben. What does your 3 play look like here?
All right. Despite what we talked about with Mass and Tulsa, I just got to say, I got to take Mass at 1.5.
Oh, you're going spread here. All right.
Plus 1.5. Yeah. I think they're going to win. They're on a roll. Tulsa's kind of faltering, and like I said, new quarterback or a guy who only led them to 7 points last week. Either way you go, or a combination of both. I don't see Tulsa winning this one. And so leg 2, San Diego, Arizona. I am taking the under 85.5.
All right, so we're doing a little bit of an inverse of this game, where my single game pick is your parlay pick and vice versa. Nice.
Yeah. We talked about defenses earlier in this game. I think both defenses are going to come to play, and that's going to be, pretty determining.
Yeah, the thing to me on that note as well is this is going to reflect a playoff game in just about every sense imaginable. And most of the time, those games see teams focus on minimizing mistakes. And sometimes that means, conservative play calling, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And in our case here, hopefully we get a few sprinklings of some solid defensive stops. And a lot of them.
Yeah. I see that happening. So yeah, the minus or the under 85.5 there. Third leg, I'm going to match you on this. The Tucson Naz over 81.5.
Cool. So we are squad riding this one and seeing if we can cash some parlays from it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put this bet in because I think it's definitely it's a competitive way to pick these games.
I think both of ours are green. I strongly believe it, and I have newfound faith that both of ours are going to turn up green.
That would be great.
Lovely. So to recap that for the audience, my parlay is Quad City money line, Arizona minus 3.5, Tucson and Naz over 81.5. Bannock's parlay, Mass plus 1.5. San Diego, Arizona under 85.5. And Tucson Naz over 81.5. And actually, I forgot to note that your parlay is minus 110 legs across the board. That is from memory plus 595. So $10 would pay just under $70 in that case. So if you happen to like one or both of those bets, absolutely tail them. If you happen to hate them, fade them if you like. But that is where our thought processes lie for trying to string together some winning combos here. But I like where that series was at.
I do too.
Sweet. So we are about just an hour, just about over an hour in. I guess that'll make it a wrap for this episode of Wager Wednesday for week 17. I want to thank you so much again, Bannock, for taking some time out of your day, sharing some of your insight and opinions on what should be a really exciting week of IFL football. So thanks again.
Gonna be a busy week, that's
for sure. But an enjoyable one nonetheless.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, bud.
All right. Anytime.
So there you have it, folks. That was Bannock, who serves as a consultant on the forum. He's been around for far longer than I have. But yeah, that is the lowdown for Wager Wednesday, week 17. You can catch all of the games on IFL Network. I've linked that below in the description. And do not forget about this week's promotion that I am putting on called King of the Turf. The Google form is also linked below. I also have it up on X and the forum. So if you just look up Shooty the Sharp, it should be the first thing that's pinned as far as posts go. It is free to enter. The winner of the promotion gets a free Sports Coast to Coast t-shirt, one that I gladly emblazoned in last week's show. So I'm looking for a lot more entries there. So if you feel that you've got some knowledge of IFL football, definitely enter. It'll be a lot of fun following that together. So again, King of the Turf, go look it up on Sports Coast to Coast, fill out the form, and let's make it rain points. So that is going to do it for this week. Thank you so much again for tuning in. If you're trying your luck in the betting markets this week, I wish you the best of luck. And I will see you right here at the cashier. Thanks again. Have a fantastic night.